How Kodak invented digital photography, but still lost the market. Imagine creating the very technology that destroys your own billion-dollar business. Now imagine ignoring it because you're afraid it will hurt your profits. That's exactly what happened to Kodak. For nearly a century, Kodak was photography. Its yellow logo was recognized across the world, and its film captured billions of memories, from family vacations to historic world events. But then something unbelievable happened. The company that invented the first digital camera became one of the biggest corporate failures in history. So how did the king of photography lose to a technology it created itself? This is the hidden story of Kodak's rise and its dramatic fall. The company that owned photography, before smartphones, before Instagram, and even before digital cameras, taking photos meant one thing: Kodak. Founded in 1888 by George Eastman, Kodak transformed photography from an expensive hobby into something ordinary people could enjoy. Eastman's philosophy was simple: you press the button, we do the rest. Customers didn't need to know how photography worked. They simply bought Kodak cameras, took pictures, and sent the film to Kodak for processing. It was a brilliant business model, but the real money wasn't made from cameras. It was made from film. Kodak often sold cameras at low prices because customers would keep buying film rolls, photographic paper, and processing services. Every vacation, every birthday, every wedding, every family gathering generated more profit for Kodak. It was similar to selling inexpensive printers while making money from ink cartridges. By the 1970s, Kodak controlled around 90% of film sales in the United States and roughly 85% of camera sales. The company employed more than 140,000 people worldwide. It wasn't just successful, it was nearly unstoppable. Or so everyone believed. The invention that changed everything. In 1975, a young Kodak electrical engineer named Steven Sasson received an unusual assignment. His job wasn't to replace film. He was simply asked to experiment with a new electronic image sensor called a CCD developed by Bell Labs a few years earlier. Sasson wondered, could a camera capture images electronically instead of on film? Using spare parts, he built a strange-looking prototype. It weighed nearly 8 pounds, or about 3.6 kilograms. Instead of film, it recorded a black and white image with a resolution of just 0.01 megapixels. Saving one photograph took around 23 seconds. Then the image had to be displayed on a television screen. Compared to film cameras, it looked ridiculous. But Sasson immediately understood its potential. When he demonstrated the camera to Kodak executives, the reaction was cautious. Some executives reportedly asked questions like, why would anyone want to look at pictures on a television? From their perspective, digital photography wasn't exciting. It was dangerous, because every digital photo meant one less roll of Kodak film sold. Kodak's impossible dilemma. This is where Kodak faced what business experts later called the innovator's dilemma. Kodak wasn't blind. Its leaders knew digital technology was improving. They invested billions of dollars in digital research over the following decades. They even earned many patents related to digital imaging. The problem wasn't invention. The problem was business. Film generated enormous profits. Digital photography threatened those profits. If Kodak aggressively promoted digital cameras, it could destroy its own film business before competitors did. If it waited, someone else might take the opportunity. Kodak chose caution. It tried to protect its existing business while slowly entering the digital market. For a while, that strategy seemed reasonable. Film sales remained strong throughout the 1980s and much of the 1990s. Many executives believed consumers would continue buying film for decades. But technology was improving faster than expected. While Kodak waited, others moved. Throughout the 1990s, companies like Sony, Canon, Nikon, Fujifilm, and others invested heavily in digital imaging. Sensors became better, memory cards became cheaper, computers became common in households, and suddenly people no longer needed to wait days to see their photo. They could take hundreds of pictures instantly, delete bad ones, and share them without buying film. Ironically, Kodak actually became one of the world's largest digital camera manufacturers during the early 2000s. At one point, it even led the US digital camera market. So why didn't that save the company? because digital cameras generated far lower profit margins than film. Kodak had built an empire around selling consumables. Digital photography removed those repeat purchases almost entirely. Customers no longer needed film. No chemical processing, no printed photo paper. The economics that made Kodak rich disappeared. The smartphone revolution. Just as Kodak was adapting to digital cameras, another revolution arrived: the smartphone. In 2007, Apple introduced the first iPhone. Soon after, smartphones from companies like Samsung and others made carrying a separate camera unnecessary for millions of people. Camera technology improved rapidly. Social media changed how people shared memories. Photos no longer lived inside family albums. They lived online. The market shifted again. Sales of standalone digital cameras began falling worldwide. Kodak had spent years trying to catch up to digital cameras, only to discover the market itself was changing again. Kodak's financial problems grew worse. Revenue fell dramatically. Factories closed. Thousands of employees lost their jobs. The company tried multiple strategies. It launched digital cameras, printers, online photo services, even licensing deals based on its valuable patents. But none could replace the profits that film had once generated. In January 2012, after more than a century as one of America's most iconic companies, Eastman Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. It was a shocking moment. A company that had once dominated an entire industry had been overwhelmed by technological change. After restructuring, Kodak emerged from bankruptcy in 2013 as a much smaller company focused on commercial printing, packaging, industrial imaging, advanced materials, and licensing its technology. It still exists today, but it's no longer the Kodak most people remember. The real lesson: people often say Kodak failed because it ignored digital photography. But that's only partly true. Kodak didn't ignore digital technology. It invented the first digital camera. It invested heavily in digital research. It owned thousands of digital imaging patents. The real problem was much harder. Kodak struggled to transform a business built on highly profitable film into one built around digital technology with very different economics. Its greatest strength became its greatest weakness. The company was so successful at selling film that moving away from film became incredibly difficult. History has repeated this lesson many times. Great companies often fail not because they can't innovate, but because they find it difficult to replace the products that made them successful in the first place. Kodak's story isn't just about cameras. It's about every company and every person facing change. Innovation alone isn't enough. You also have to be willing to let go of yesterday's success before someone else makes it obsolete. Because in business, the biggest threat isn't always your competitor. Sometimes it's your own success. If you enjoyed this hidden story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more fascinating stories from business, history, and technology. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.